Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna. Carry on. I'm just gonna carry on. So, Chaitanya Bhagavat. Carry on. Carry on. In Radhadesh, there is a village named Ekachatra, where Lord Nityananda took birth. Near this village, there is a deity of Madhushwara Shiva that was worshipped by Nityananda Haladar. In this village lived a Brahmana named Hadai Pandit, who was greatly renounced. Okay. Yeah. Okay. In the village lived a Brahmana named Hadai Pandit, who was greatly renounced and full of compassion. His chaste wife name was Padmavati. She was a great Vaishnava and a mother of the universe. Both the Brahmana and his wife were most magnanimous. In their house, Nityananda took birth. Lord Nityananda was the eldest of their sons. On seeing all his auspicious symptoms, one's eyes were satiated. His childhood pastimes had already been described in the Adikand. If I narrate them again here, this book will continue voluminous. In this way, Lord Nityananda engaged in blissful pastimes as he lived for some days in the house of Hadai Pandit. Nityananda Prabhu then decided to leave home, but his parents, fearing distress in his absence, did not leave home alone. If Nityananda's mother did not see him for a moment, she considered that moment equal to a yuga, and his father considered it even longer. Hadai Ocha could not go anywhere without Nityananda for even a moment, whether farming, in the house of his disciple, in the marketplace, or on the road. Whatever he was doing, he would glance at Nityananda 100 times every minute out of fear that he might leave. As Hadai Pandit repeatedly embraced him, the soft as butter, delicate body of Nityananda would merge in his body. In this way, Hadai Pandit went everywhere accompanied by his son. It seemed Hadai Pandit was the body and Nityananda was the life air. As the super soul, Nityananda knew everything. He stayed with his father for his pleasure and as a matter of duty. One day, by providence, an attractive sannyasi arrived at the house of Hadai Pandit. Nityananda's father invited him for a meal and happily kept him in his house. Nityananda's father passed the entire night discussing topics of Krishna with the sannyasi. In the early morning, when the sannyasi was about to leave, he spoke to Nityananda's father as follows. The sannyasi said, "I wish to beg alms from you." Nityananda's father replied, "Ask for whatever you like." The sannyasi said, "I have a plan to visit the holy places, but I do not have a suitable Brahmin companion. Please give me your eldest son of yours to accompany me for some days. I would take better care of him than my own life, and he will be able to see all the holy places." On hearing the words of the sannyasi, the pure Brahmana became afflicted with distress and contemplated as follows. This sannyasi has asked for my very life, and if I do not give him, I will be ruined. Many great personalities in the past have given their lives to sannyasis and thereby achieved auspiciousness. Vishwamrita previously begged Dasarath for his son Ramachandra, who was Dasarath's very life. Although the king could not live without Rama, he nevertheless gave him. This is described in the Puranas. The same thing has happened to me today. O Krishna, please save me from this dilemma. By providence, it was the same situation, so why the mentality would not be the same? Otherwise, why would Lakshman appear in his house? After contemplating in this way, the Brahmana went to his wife and explained the situation in detail. On hearing about the request, that chaste wife and mother of the universe said, "Dear Prabhu, I agree with whatever you decide." The father of Nityananda then came before the sannyasi with his head down and handed over his son to the sannyasi. The best of sannyasis then departed with Nityananda. In this way, Nityananda left home. As soon as Nityananda left home, the Brahmana, Hadai Pandit, fell unconscious to the ground. Who can describe the Brahmana's pathetic crying? Even stone and wood melted from the sound. Hado Aja became overwhelmed and inert in the mellows of ecstatic love. People said, Hado Aja has become mad. Indeed, he did not eat anything for 3 months. He survived only by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya. Why does the Lord leave someone who is so attached to him? This is the inconceivable authority of Lord Vishnu and the Vaishnavas. Jai. Shri Nityananda Ram ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Nityananda Ram Jaya Nityananda Ram Jaya Nityananda Ram Jaya Nityananda Ram Nityananda Ram Jaya, Nityananda Ram Jaya, Nityananda Ram Jaya, Nityananda Ram. Shri Nityananda Ram ki jai. No, that was it. I mean, that was it. I didn't work out anyway, so. Some of the nice.
Can we put the words to Nitai Parakamla up on the board? So over the last few weeks we've sung various bhajans. We did Boro Sukha Kabar Gai, Nadia Gudrimi Nityananda Mahajan, and this is another nice one we hadn't done for a while. So this morning we went through this Nitai Parakamla bhajan. Thought we could sing it and go through it a bit again. Yeah, probably I should have faced it. Nitai Parakamala Koti Chandra Shushitala Jechaya Jagata Jurai Kamala Koti Chandra Shushitala Jechaya Jagata Jura Heno Nitai Binibhai Radha Krishna Payatina Drida Kori Daronita Pa Se sambandha nahi jar Brita janma geluthar Se pashu vorodira char Nitana bolilo mukhe Majilo samsara sukhe Vidya kule ki koribe tha Ahankara mata hoya Nitai pada pasariya Asatiri satyakori mani Nitaya karuna be Prajirada Krishna pabe Daro nitai charana dukhani Nitaya charana satya Tahara sevaka nitya Nitai pada sadakoro hash Narottama Bodhuki Nitai Moriko Suki Rakuranga Charanera Pash Nitai Padakamala Koti Chandra Sushitala Jichaya Jagata Jua Kodanita Jaya Maya Purushashi Jaya Kodanita Jaya Maya Purushashi Jaya Kodanita Jaya Maya Purushashi Jaya Kudanita Jaya Maya Purushashi Jaya Nityanandaram 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 Jaya Nityanandaram Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai, Jai Prabhupada. Shri Nityananda Rama Ki Jai. So Prabhupada said repetition is the mother of learning. So if you heard this morning, it might have been the first time, so this will be the second time. So actually what we can do, if the translation's here, then devotees can read a bit. Do we have the mic to pass around?
The lotus feet of Lord Nityananda are a shelter where one will get the soothing moonlight not only of one, but of millions of moons. If the world wants to have real peace, it should take shelter of Lord Nityananda. Unless one takes shelter under the shade of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, it will be very difficult for him to approach Radha Krishna. If one actually wants to enter into the dancing party of Radha Krishna, he must firmly catch hold of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda.
Anyone who has not established his relationship with Nityananda Prabhu is understood to have spoiled his valuable human birth. Such a human being is actually an uncontrollable animal because he never uttered the holy name of Nityananda. He has become merged into so-called material happiness. What can his useless education and a family tradition to do help him?
Being maddened after false prestige and identification with the body, one is thinking, oh, what is Nityananda? What can he do for me? I don't care. The result is that he is accepting something false to be truth. If you actually want to approach the association of Radha and Krishna, you must first achieve the mercy of Lord Nityananda. When he is merciful toward you, then you will be able to approach Radha Krishna. Therefore, you should firmly grasp the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda.
The lotus feet of Nityananda are not illusion, they are a fact. One who engages in the transcendental loving service of Nityananda is also transcendental. I always try to catch the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. This Narottam Das is very unhappy, and therefore I am praying to Lord Nityananda to make me happy. My dear Lord, please keep me close to your lotus feet.
So this is a very much shortened version of what we read this morning. This morning was actually a purport by Srila Prabhupada. He goes into things in more detail. They give examples. So first of all is Nitai Pada Kamala, Koti Chandra Shushitala. So Lord Nityananda's lotus feet. This term, I think we all know what the term lotus feet means. Just like the example is given, the lotus may be in the water, but the flower never touches the water. So the Lord, and sometimes the Lord's devotees, they may be in the material world, but they're not of it. And there was even one, if anybody knows the personality, they can say, but they said, even if I see Lord Nityananda entering into a liquor store, then my mind won't deviate an inch from full faith in him. So, like sometimes, generally devotee, especially in those days in the Middle Ages, devotees would not be seen dead in a liquor store. But even if Lord Nityananda went in there, then the devotees had so much faith in him that they would accept that he must have some good purpose going in there. Koti Chandra Shushitala. So the Chandra or the moon is known for giving cooling rays. Scotland, we don't really experience it because it's already cold. But if you're in India and then there's a full moon night after a long hot day, then you experience the cooling effect of the moon. So Koti Chandra means millions of moons, more soothing, more cooling than millions of moons. And what is being cooled is that samsara, this material desire which is keeping us in the cycle of birth and death. And Hino Nitai Bine Bai, Radha Krishna Pai Tinandrida Kori Daro Nitai Pai. So here it's Narottam Das Thakur is saying that we should approach the shelter of Lord Nityananda in order to get access to the eternal pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Se Sambandha Nahija Brita Janmagil Tarse Pashu Boru Durachar. This says Sambandha or connection. If we don't make that connection with the Lord Nityananda, then our birth, our human form of life is spoiled and it is no better than the animals. So of course, we've got a great opportunity to be better than the animals, because even if we said this to the animals, it wouldn't make any difference to them. You could bring a puppy dog in here and you could tell them, okay, unless you get a relationship with Lord Nityananda, your dog form of life is wasted. It won't make any difference because they can't hear it, but the humans can hear it. So they have that choice. It's a great freedom. And of course, the old saying is, with freedom comes responsibility. We like the freedom part, but we don't like the responsibility part. Because that means that usually we have to be serious about something, right? Taking responsibility is a bit of a burden. Like there was one devotee, he was struggling. A lot of devotees in the early days, they came from a hippie background, and this boy was struggling with his concept of freedom. He says, I just want to run free. Brad says, okay, go, become a horse. But where's the horse going to run to? Eventually, it's got to tire out, isn't it? Or somebody's going to catch it and exploit it. So similarly, we have no freedom in this material world. But if we use this human form of life and what little freedom we have to focus on taking shelter over Lord Nityananda and taking shelter in this mission which he is propagating, he's spearheading Lord Chaitanya's mission, then this is the best use of this human form of life. Nitai na bolilomukhi majala samsara sukhi vidya kuliki kirebitar. So even if one has a great birth, great reputation, great wealth, great knowledge, education, unless one follows in the line of Lord Nityananda, then they cannot make advancement. Ahankara matahoya nitai pada pasharya asatyari satyakori mani. So this ahankar, false ego, we shouldn't think that just because we identify with this body that Lord Nityananda is also some temporary personality. He is the eternal personality of Godhead. As we're reading this morning, he's known as the Supreme Personality Servitor Godhead, which means, does anyone remember? If he's the original servant, he's also the original Guru. Yep, Adi Guru. What were you saying? Master. Well, he certainly is the master of the devotees, but he considered himself a servant of Lord Chaitanya. And it was mentioned that he serves Lord Chaitanya in various ways. Can anyone remember, or does anyone understand, how does he serve Lord Chaitanya? Sometimes he serves him as a as an older brother, which is kind of protective. Sometimes you serve him as a friend, and then sometimes you serve him as a servant. So this is typical in the different exchanges we have. It's typical of the exchanges we have with devotees. The devotees who are junior, who are equal, and who are senior. We're compassionate to juniors, friendly with equals, and subordinate to superiors. Nowadays, nobody wants to be feeling subordinate, isn't it? We're so proud. I don't want to be subordinate. I want to get to the top, so that everybody's subordinate to me. But that's such a great responsibility. If everyone's subordinate to you, then you must be God. How are you going to maintain all the worlds? So, and then this, so we should understand, and we do understand, we accept this, so there's no point preaching to the converted already, as they say. But it's good to hear this, because people do think like that. They do think on the bodily platform. And finally, Narottam Boroduki Nitai Mori Korasuki Rakuranga Charnerapash. Narottam Das Thakur is taking the position of the fallen conditioned soul and is saying that I'm most miserable, but you're Nityananda, you're always blissful. So please, give me some happiness as well. Keep me in the shelter of your lotus feet. So in the nectar of devotion, in the Middle Ages, after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya's great associate, Lord Nityananda, a class of priestly persons claimed to be the descendants of Nityananda. Calling themselves the Goswami caste. Interesting enough. Now we all know what Goswami means, don't we? Means anybody? Of? Master of the senses, that's right. Go means the senses, and Swami means master or controller of. And I remember some years ago doing door-to-door in North London, and I came across Mr. and Mrs. Goswami. And I thought, this is a bit odd. And also I came across, there was an old lady, a very nice old Hindu lady, supported the devotees. She used to make these killer parathas. You take one paratha and that was you finished. You just fall asleep. It was so heavy, it was like a doormat. Her name was Mrs. Maharaj. So it's interesting because these names, Goswamis, it's not like a family name, but somebody here has appropriated it as a family thing to monopolize it. So they called themselves the descendants of Lord Nityananda and calling themselves the Goswami caste. They further claimed that the practice and spreading of devotional service belonged only to their particular class, which was known as Nityananda Vamsa. In this way, they exercised their artificial power for some time, until Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, the powerful Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, completely smashed their idea. You can tell Prabhupada's taking pleasure in writing this. There was a great hard struggle for some time, but it has turned out successfully, and it is now correctly and practically established that devotional service is not restricted to a particular class of men. Besides that, anyone who is engaged in devotional service is already at the status of being a high-class Brahmin. So Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur's struggle for this movement has come out successful. It is on the basis of his position that anyone can now become a Gaudiya Vaishnava from any part of the world or any part of the universe. Anyone who is a pure Vaishnava is situated transcendently, and therefore the highest qualification in the material world, namely to be in the mode of goodness, has already been achieved by such a person. Our Krishna conscious movement in the Western world is based on the above-mentioned proposition of Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, our spiritual master. Of course, he's not our spiritual master, he's Prabhupada's spiritual master. He's our grandfather, a great-grandfather spiritual master. On his authority, we are claiming members from all sections of the Western countries. The so-called Brahmins claim that one who is not born into a Brahmin family cannot receive the sacred thread and cannot become a high-grade Vaishnava. But we do not accept such a theory. It's interesting he uses the word theory, because it's only a theory, because it's not supported by Rupa Goswami nor by the strength of the various scriptures. So this is the mission of Lord Nityananda. It's interesting, Nitaya Charana Satya. So Lord Nityananda, he is transcendental, and he was merciful to all sorts of castes and even outcasts. For example, Jaga and Madai, the devotees did a nice dramatic narration yesterday. Although they were born in a Brahmin family, what was their names previously? Yeah, Jagannath and Madhva, so they're known as Jaga and Madai. And the very sound of their names, it rang fear into the hearts of people because they were so notorious. They weren't just like a comedy act. It was, playing it being violent, or playing it being the bad guys. Actually, they were very bad. And on account of all the things that they did, then they were outcasts. They were no longer considered Brahmins. As well as that, then Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, when they were traveling through the different towns and villages, they would invoke everybody to chant and join the chanting party, regardless of any caste. So they were smashing the caste system. So there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita Krishna refers to. Does anyone remember this? About the Varnashram. Guna karma. Chatuvarnamaya Shishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasa. So these 4 orders, social and spiritual orders, were created by me. And I think everybody's just about coughing. So we see that Krishna created these. They're not artificial, and they're according to guna and karma, according to one's qualities and one's activities. So because people were not of the qualities of the Brahmins, then it does mean to say that they can be accepted simply by birth. This is the caste system. And people in the West are actually, many people are aware of this caste system, and they think it's most unfair, most unreasonable. And they would be right, because even Lord Chaitanya, he was against it. And then, of course, Nityananda Prabhu, he was so merciful. He would embrace even the so-called untouchable classes. If you look back in those days, before Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was converted, he was like a Smarta Brahmin. And in those days, the Smarta Brahmins, even if an untouchable or a lower class person's shadow touched you, then people would beat them with sticks. And we don't mean little twigs, it'd be like, it'd be serious beating. So there was so much control out of fear. People would be afraid to go anywhere near. So sometimes these so-called Brahmins, they would have guards which would keep people away from them so that the shadow wouldn't cast on them and contaminate them. So this is not something we want to get involved in. We have to be very careful in this Hare Krishna movement to remain the focus on what Prabhupada gave us, not to get too much distracted by karma kanda side of things. We see sometimes on Ekadashi people are propagating all the benefits and all the punishments you get if you don't do things, but this is not really our focus. Our focus in following Ekadashi is to spend more time thinking of Krishna. Same with Vastu and so many other things. These material sciences are there, and if you want to make them important, then that's like Draupadi, holding on to her sari. No, it's okay, we don't need you, Krishna. We'll hold on to the sari ourselves. We don't need you, Krishna. We need Vastu, and we need Karma Kanda. This is what we require. And Krishna thinks, okay, you don't need me, fine. I've got plenty of things to do. I've got the rasa dance to perform. I don't need you. But actually, when we take shelter of Krishna, then everything falls into line. Because whatever Krishna does is always all auspicious. Sarva Mangalam. This is one of his names. So therefore we put Krishna in the center and everything becomes auspicious. And Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati and Srila Prabhupada, they were also propagating this. And even Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati, his life, there was attempts made on his life because he was upsetting the status quo. I don't mean the pop group, but he was upsetting them because they were monopolizing their caste to keep the others in service of them without actually giving them proper knowledge. And simply, we see it's still there, remnants of that. You go somewhere and simply, when they see you, all they think is, I want money off of you. They don't care about, getting you the benedictions of darshan, etc. Like one temple I went to, they wouldn't allow me in, but they wanted money off me. I says, sure, I'll give you plenty of money, but I get darshan first. Oh, no darshan. Okay, no money. And I says, what do you want money for anyway? And he said, food. And the guy was like twice the size of me and just pointed to his belly. I says, you don't need anything. So I wasn't too happy. I was thinking, well, I'm getting turned away here, and Konyutai Pushashi are standing in Lesmahago. Why I have to go to India to get refused? But at the same time, I was remembering Haridas Thakur, that he was taking the humble position that these are the Sevites of the Lord. The Lord has accepted their service, so we don't argue with that. Haridas Thakur, although he was Namacharya, greatest devotee, chanting 3 times 64 rounds a day. Anyone ever chanted 64 rounds? Anyone ever chanted 2 times 64? 3 times? I won't say 4 because there's not enough hours in a day. But 3 times 64, this is on the level of the Goswamis, where it takes like 23 hours to chant. And then you have an hour for everything else after that. Yeah, so when you chant these extra rounds, you realize that Prabhupada said 16 rounds is just the beginning. If you chant extra rounds for a few days, then you're going back to 16 rounds, you almost feel like you're letting yourself down. But at least we should do that. Prabhupada said this is the most important regulative principle, is 16 rounds. So by chanting the holy name of the Lord, it's considered that we are surpassing all other Vedic rituals. So this is what Lord Nityananda came to propagate, that we simply take to this chanting of the holy names. And he gave this to the most fallen. We know the pastime that his consideration was that the Lord Chaitanya is known as Maha Vardanyaya Avatar, the most merciful incarnation. So that means he must save the most fallen. So who's the most fallen people we know? Jagai and Madai. So here we're seeing great tolerance of Lord Nityananda. In one of Lord Chaitanya's Shikshastika verses, it is stated, the devotee should be more tolerant in the tree and more submissive than the grass. He should offer all honor to others, but may not accept any honor for himself. So this is the real test, isn't it? That sometimes we can offer words of praise, but often we're looking for words of praise back. The mutual back scratching association. In spite of Lord Chaitanya's being so humble and meek as a devotee, when he was informed about injuries inflicted on the body of Sri Nityananda, he immediately ran to the spot and wanted to kill the offenders, Jagai and Madai. This behavior of Lord Chaitanya is very significant. It shows that a Vaishnava may be very tolerant and meek, forgoing everything for his personal honor, but when it is a question of the honor of Krishna or his devotee, he will not tolerate any insult. So Lord Chaitanya, when he heard that Haridas Thakur and Nityananda had been attacked by Jagai and Madai, and that Madai had struck Lord Nityananda on the head with a clay pot. And you see some of these clay pots, you get struck with one aim in the head, it's harder than your head, so it could be fatal. And apparently blood was gushing from Lord Nityananda. And Lord Nityananda appeared on the scenes and he shouted, "Chakra!" And then Chakra came immediately and he was going to kill. And Lord Nityananda was begging him, "Oh no, don't kill them. If you kill these ones, then you have to kill everybody because everybody's like Jaga and Madai." Of course, we're not even proper Jaga and Madai. We're just like plastic versions. We're not even that big a demon. Sometimes we like to think we're a big demon in our ego. And then he said, but Lord Chaitanya wasn't easily pacified. He says, well, even if you want to kill him, you cannot kill Jagai because he saved me. And he said, Lord Chaitanya says, what? Tell me. He says, well, when Madai went to strike me a second time, Jagai stopped him. So then Lord Chaitanya immediately embraced Jagai. And then Madai was thinking, oh, good, I've got a chance now, I'm not going to get killed. So he was also shouted, mercy, mercy. And Lord Chaitanya said, your case is not so simple. So after much bargaining and begging from Lord Nityananda, the very person who'd been attacked and been offended, then Lord Chaitanya forgave him, but he told him you have to make amends. So for the rest of your days, he says, he instructed him, you go and build a ghat and you serve all the pilgrims who come. And so he did that. He built the ghat, Madai Ghat, and he served all the pilgrims. But still, people weren't so convinced. Some people weren't convinced. They were thinking, okay, Madai is acting very humble now, but maybe next week he'll change his mind. So they were very careful to keep a distance. Then others were throwing rocks at him because, he'd done some terrible things to maybe their family or something. But Madai, he wasn't, not like some of us. Sometimes we get a little bit of discomfort and we're thinking, oh, I'm supposed to be a devotee. Why am I suffering? But Madai, his mood was, this suffering is causing me ecstasy because I'm such a demon that I cannot expect forgiveness for punishing a well-wisher like Lord Nityananda. This was Lord Chaitanya's scolding Madai. He said, you attacked a well-wisher, someone who meant you no harm, who only meant good for you, and you attacked him. Such a despicable act. But of course, he got redeemed. And he was thinking like this. It stuck in his mind. It wasn't like he was remorseful for a couple of days and then, business as usual. He took it very seriously. And this is a great example to us as well, that don't forget where we came from and where we'd be going, if we didn't come across the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. And such great tolerance that he was, he remained a well-wisher even though Madai had struck him. Then still he didn't run away. He still wanted to try to save Madai. So this is such a great example to us that even if someone is inimical towards us, we remain a well-wisher. Jesus Christ said something to that effect, wasn't it? Love your enemies. It's easy to love your friends, isn't it? Maybe not even. But to love your enemies. And we find that, that sometimes we think we have an enemy or someone's given us some trouble, then we can pray for them. We can pray that they get some benefit. And then that takes any effect of animosity away from us. So this is the these people who were calling themselves Nityananda Vamsa. Although Lord Nityananda and this song by Narottam Das Thakur is talking about Nitai Charana Satya, that his lotus feet are eternal, they're the absolute truth, then their Nityananda and Vamsa were on a bodily concept claiming to be descendants and therefore trying to monopolize it. And this was quite often the case. We see that with Lord Chaitanya's appearance place, Yoga Pit, as it's called, the place where he appeared, then people were claiming this is a real appearance place, and then someone saying, no, this is it, because there's some jostling to get the monopolization of the pilgrims. And but then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, then they actually discovered the actual place. So I just wanted to read a couple of verses from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela 1, chapter 5, entitled The Glories of Nityananda Balaram, isn't it? The Glories of Nityananda Balaram. So we did read from verse 5 this morning. So verse 6, that original Lord Krishna appeared in Navadvip as Lord Chaitanya, and Balaram appeared with him as Lord Nityananda. So this is a nice verse. Say Krishna Navadvipi Sri Chaitanya Chandra, say Balarama Sangi Sri Nityananda. So this is another one. Sankarshana Karana Toya Shai, Garbodai Shai Cha Payo Bdi Shai. May Sri Nityananda Ram be the object of my constant remembrance. Sankarshan, Seshanag, and the Vishnus who lie in the Karna ocean, Garba ocean, and ocean milk are his plenary portions and the portions of his plenary portions. So, purport by Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami has recorded this verse in his diary to offer his respectful obeisances to Lord Nityananda Prabhu. This verse also appears as the 7th of the first 14 verses of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sri Balarama Goswami Mula Sankarshana Pancharupa Dari Karena Krishna Sivana. Lord Balaram is the original Sankarshan. He assumes 5 other forms to serve Lord Krishna. So I won't do all the Bengali. He himself helps in the pastimes of Lord Krishna, and he does the work of creation in 4 other forms. What are those other forms, anyone? 4 other forms, that's a clue. 4, Chatur. Chatur Vyuha. Shanksham Pajumna. He executes the orders of Lord Krishna in the work of creation, and in the form of Lord Shesha, he serves Krishna in various ways. So here, according to Prabhupada's purport, according to expert opinion, Balaram, as the chief of the original quadruple forms, is also the original Sankarshan. Balaram, the first expansion of Krishna, expands himself in 5 forms. 1, Mahasankarshan, 2, Karanabhakdishai, 3, Garbhodakashai, and 4, Kirudakashai, and 5, Shesha. These 5 plenary portions are responsible for both the spiritual and material cosmic manifestations. In these 5 forms, Lord Balaram assists Lord Krishna in his activities. The first 4 of these forms are responsible for the cosmic manifestations, whereas Shesha is responsible for personal service to the Lord. Shesha is called Ananta, or unlimited, because he assists the personality of Godhead in his unlimited expansions by performing an unlimited variety of services. Shri Balaram is the servitor Godhead who serves Lord Krishna in all affairs of existence and knowledge. Lord Nityananda Prabhu, who is the same servitor Godhead, Balaram, performs the same service to Lord Gauranga by constant association. So it's mentioned there that Ananta Shesha is one of the expansions of Lord Balaram, and elsewhere in this chapter it gives some expansion on that by mentioning that the whole cosmic manifestation is resting on the hoods of Ananta Shesh, and it's just like a mustard seed on his head. He's hardly even aware that it exists. Huh? Yeah, so if you imagine, you ever tried to feel a mustard seed, you can't weigh it. It's tiny and it's hollow. If you had it on your head, you wouldn't even notice. So this example is there that the whole cosmic manifestation is resting on his head, just like a mustard seed. And sometimes when he he's upset with the living entities being such rascals, then he has a desire to annihilate. Just like, if there was some small itch, you want to scratch your head. But also at the same time, because he is, because Lord Nityananda and the various other incarnations come and show mercy to the fallen conditioned souls, then Anantashesh tolerates and he performs his service of maintaining the material world like that. In all the forms, he tastes the transcendental bliss of serving Krishna. That same Balaram is Lord Nityananda, the companion of Lord Gaurasundar. I have explained the 7th verse and 4 subsequent verses. By these verses, all the world can know the truth about Lord Nityananda. I surrender unto the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, who is known as Sankarshan in the midst of the Chaturvyuha, consisting of Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. He possesses full opulences and resides in Vaikuntha Loka, far beyond the material creation. So he says he possesses full opulences. So there's one, we were talking about this today, Swamsa and Vibhinamsa. So Swamsa means that he's got all opulences. He's complete Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's not just empowered or have particular pastime, but he has unlimited pastimes. Beyond the material nature lies a realm known as Paravyoma, the spiritual sky. Like Lord Krishna himself, it possesses all transcendental attributes, such as the 6 opulences. That Vaikuntha region is all-pervading, infinite and supreme. It is the residence of Lord Krishna and his incarnations. And the highest region of that spiritual sky is a spiritual planet called Krishna Loka. It has 3 divisions, Dwarka, Mathura, and Gokula. Sri Gokula, the highest of all, is also called Vraja, Goloka, Svetadweep, and Vrindavan. So these are further divisions. Like the transcendental body of Lord Krishna, Gokula is all-pervading, infinite, and supreme. It expands both above and below without any restriction. That abode is manifested within the material world by the will of Lord Krishna. It is identical to the original Gokula. They are not 2 different bodies. So we should never think that the holy Dham in this world is like some kind of lesser material version of the real thing. Even if you go to Vrindavan now, you may see quite different. If you've seen it like 20, 30, 40 years ago, then it was very different. It was more rural, natural, but nowadays there's a lot of development going on there. But still, if you go there with the mood to absorb in service and absorb in the Lord's pastimes by hearing and chanting there, you will feel that it's very conducive atmosphere. You put your hand in your bead bag, and by the end of the day, you've chanted lots of rounds. The atmosphere is very conducive for chanting lots of rounds. You can't make that up. Just like even these temples are like oases to Vrindavan. They're like embassies of the spiritual world. For example, when we were getting planning permission for Gauranga Hall, we invited the councillor and the planning officers in here because I thought, well, get the blessings of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. So when they came in, the lady who's in charge of planning said, oh, it's a very nice atmosphere in here. So even she could detect that herself. And then she revealed that she was a vegetarian and she'd been to India and she liked some Buddhist principles. And we got all the planning permission that we needed and more. We have planning permission for next door, which we just need the money. So if we want to extend the temple and build some more accommodation, we just need some money for it. But the plans are there. So people can detect that, and especially devotees when they're serving in the West and then they go to the Holy Dham, then the Lord embraces them. They feel that embrace. First time I went to Vrindavan, 1990, and I got very sick for a few days, and I was put into a room on my own after a couple of days of extreme vomiting, etc. And Govinda Maharaj came in to see me. It was very kind, actually, and he said, "Oh, you've been welcomed into Vrindavan. Radharani's embracing you." So this kind of purification, it's not unusual that when devotees go to the holy dam for the first time, they might get quite sick. And I was so sick, I was thinking, well, I might leave my body, but I'm in the right place. So if Krishna has brought me here to finish me off, then I can't complain. But no, it was a purification. And when you look back on that, you look back on it, although you're materially suffering, you look back on it with fondness. And this is a kind of mercy, that when we're suffering in our service, we shouldn't be thinking, why me? We should be thinking, this is a great mercy upon me, that I'm being purified. Of course, easier said than done. But this spiritual world, known as Vrindavan, is also present here. And a short pastime, and then we'll ask anyone if they want to share any nectar of Lord Nityananda. So, as we have quoted this verse from the song Golokera Premadan Harinam Sankirtan, that Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, and their associates all came to the material world to take the chanting, to take the Sankirtan into the material world, take the holy name of Krishna, and basically share this Krishna prema with everybody, and give everybody, the most fallen, give them the highest. And Radhakunda is the deity of Lord Chaitanya, and he's pointing down and pointing up, and it's explained that Lord Chaitanya has came to take the lowest to the highest. And he's very big. If you ever see that deity, Radhakund, Lord Chaitanya is huge. So when they arrived and they were performing their pastimes, and then Lord Chaitanya said, wait a minute, somebody's missing. Does anybody remember who it was? He was in Krishna Lil, he's known as Lauta Baba. I think he has another name as well, if anybody knows it. But if you go to Govardhan, on the far end of Govardhan on the Rajasthani side, then you see there's a temple to Lauta Baba. And he was a cowherd boy, one of the Gopa friends of Lord Nityananda. So when it was discovered that he wasn't there, what happened is they were playing hide and seek, and then he went to hide, and he found a really good place to hide, and everybody had finished the game, and they thought, okay, now we're going to the material world to engage in pastimes with Lord Gora, so everybody pack your bags and let's go. But he was still hiding, and he got left behind. So they realised, oh, he'll be upset, and Lord Nityananda says, I'll go and get him then. And so he went back to Vaikuntha, Vrindavan, and he said, he says, Krishna's having his pastimes in the material world, and he wants you to come. And of course, it was Kali Yuga. So in Kali Yuga, everyone is smaller in size. So he looked at Lord Nityananda and he said, who are you? In Scotland, we say a small person, we call him a smout, right? Who are you, you wee smout? And he says, oh, I'm Balaram. He says, you're not Balaram. He says, Balaram's big and strong. You're just a little guy. And he says, no, I'm Balaram. You know, we're in Kali Yuga. Everything's, you know, Lord Chaitanya's there having these pastimes, and they want you to come. So he tried to convince him. He says, okay, if you're actually Balaram, then you can prove it to me. He says, how can I prove it to you? He says, well, the only person who can beat me at running is Balaram. So we'll have a race, and if you win, then I'll come. Otherwise, you're an imposter. So they had a race, and Lord Nityananda won. He says, okay, I accept you, but I'm not happy. You left me behind. So he went and joined the pastimes in the material world. So this is a wonderful associates of the Lord, and they're inviting us to come and join them. They're saying, you don't have to stay in this material world, rotting here, and you're forgetting Krishna, and you think you're happy, but you're forgetting your real happiness is where you belong, where there's no birth, death, old age, and disease. And this is what Prabhupada has come to give us. This is what Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda has brought us. Jeev Jago, Gaura Chandaboli, Kota Nidar Jaumaya, Pisa Chirakoli. That we take to this chanting of Hare Krishna and we give it to others, then we become very dear to Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya very quickly. And the door is wide open for us to go back to Godhead. So this lifetime is very short. If you ever speak to any old person, they don't generally say, oh, it's been a long, long life. It's taken ages. They say, oh, time flies. Take it from me. When you get old, you realize, how quickly time passes. So when you're young, you think you've got almost an infinity ahead of you. But when you're old, you look back and you think, oh, I've wasted so much time. So therefore, Prabhupada emphasized, don't waste time. Use it in Krishna's service and there'll be no regrets at the end. So this is Lord Nityananda is calling us to join him in his party. And we get his protection, we get his shelter by that. So I'd just like to open up if anyone's got anything they'd like to share or any questions or comments at Hokshipu.
Hare Krishna. Jai Nitai. This is from Krishna Katamrita. That
Is that
magazine.
the ice cream van?
Where's that from? That's from Madhavananda Prabhu. He says, he's quoting Srimad Gaura Govinda Swami Maharaj. There's no difference between the name of Krishna and Krishna himself. Eka Tattva, one Tattva, Krishna Tattva. And the Nama Tattva, he's Anadi without beginning, and Chinmay, transcendental, he is not material, and Chintamani. Whatever desire you cherish, the name will give you. All right, take this, take this. Nitai, Nitai, take this. Ni means take. This name means take this. Nitai. Didn't know that, did you?
No.
Take this.
Nitai means take this.
Take this. Yeah. And the nature of Lord Nityananda's mercy is he removes all your material desires, and at the same time he fulfills all your material desires. Because he's wherever you want, because he's Chintamani. So if you approach Lord Nityananda, but of course he may not give you what you think you want. He may give you what you need. And you may not appreciate that until later on. And also, it says in this magazine that Janavamat was from Angabanjari in the spiritual world, and she came down to assist in Lord Nityananda's pastimes, which is interesting. I never knew that either. Yeah, Krishna Kart. You can go on the mailing list, it's free, Gopal Jew.
Was it Minikit Ramdas who had a stick or a flute? No, that was Abhiram Gopal, wasn't it?
Yeah. And also, interestingly, I went to Ekachakra. Prabhupada Charan had been there, and he told me it was the most peaceful place that he'd ever been. And it just lodged in my mind that I'd like to experience that peace. So it was a few years later we actually got a chance to go. It was quite a drive, actually. You have to get up before Mangalati, jump in the taxi, and then there's no guarantee you're actually going to get there because the road was just so congested, And the taxi driver was really, really good. It was just this tiny little opening. He just suddenly, all the traffic had stopped. There was just this little. He drove in, and we managed to get through. And then we got there by about 9 a.m. And it's a beautiful temple. It's pink and gold. That's just been built. It's been there a few years now, but at the time it just been built. And the deities inside were really nice. I remember I went over to the birthplace of Lord Nityananda, and it's in front of a kund. There's these palm trees hanging over. And I paid my obeisances. There was an extraordinary experience of just being embraced by the Dharma. And I was reflecting on all the Garanga fridge magnets and the Garanga stickers that I've put up over the years, and I'm still putting up now. And it was that thought of all those Garangas and all those people that I've got to say Garanga that was really comforting me, really making me think, wow, at least I did that. Lord Nityananda will be pleased with me for at least doing that, getting all those Garangas out, you know. So we had a Garanga campaign here for a while, and that's how we get Baja Garanga, Kaha Garanga, Laha Garanga, Namare, Jejana Garanga, Vajasaya, Mara Prana. If you want to get the mercy of Lord Nityananda, then give everybody the holy name of Gauranga. So I definitely recommend. It's like going back 500 years in time into Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. The Ekachakra is just full of cows, and they're just all wandering around. And it's a very, very simple village. And you just feel like the Panchatattva are going to come walking around the corner and just going, Hari Bo. So like that kind of feel, you know, like the pastimes are coming alive. You're getting a chance. We read them, Chechen Charitamrita, and we heard the pastimes. But when you can actually go to the places where they happened, it's like confirmation, you know. It's very, very powerful for your faith to go to the holy places. And then come back, you know, once you've been there for a few weeks, you've kind of outstayed your welcome. Okay, it's nice. Here's some ecstasy. Here's some nice realizations. Okay, now you better get back to your business. Preach Harinam Sankirtan. Now go back to the West. I arranged that you didn't take birth here. I arranged that you took birth where you did take birth for a reason. And I have a particular set of tasks that I would like you to do. So fall in with my plan. And, you know, we'd all like to go and retire and live in Ekachakra and just chant and read. But that's not what Lord Nityananda wants. And the mood of Gadai Gauranga before Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it was Gadai Gauranga, and the mood was more bhajan, namhats and bhajans. And it wasn't so much the preaching. So Bhaktisiddhanta emphasized Nitai and Gauranga, and it's very much the preaching mood. And so Srila Prabhupada carried that on, all the altars, and Nitai Gauranga, and it's preaching. It's by preaching that we get the mercy. Rather than by trying to perfect ourselves or achieve our Swarup Siddhi or go into Manjari Bhav. And one devotee, Rameshwar Prabhu, he was giving a class and he says, oh, book distribution is just like being one of the gopis and bringing people into the Rasa Leela. So the devotees were thinking, Sahaja. So they went to Srila Prabhupada and they said, you know, he's giving this class and he's saying these things. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes. That is correct. So if you really want to go into these deep understandings and get these intimate revelations, then you'll find them on the street with one of Prabhupada's books in your hands, approaching a conditioned soul. That's when the mercy will come. Nitai's mercy, as you've been experiencing, perhaps yourself, you know. Shiva Ramanuj was saying, if you don't go out and do book distribution, you don't really know what the Hare Krishna movement is about. That's where the rubber hits the road. Where you, Navina Narada was calling it the moment of truth. The moment of truth is when you give them a book and you ask them for a donation. That's the moment of truth. And if you can do it nicely and fearlessly and with full faith and confidence, and Mahotsava Prabhu, he's saying it's not what you say, it's what you pray. So it's a great place to go and pray, because the prayers get answered immediately. Generally when you're praying, you're waiting for the prayer to get answered. But it's very rare that you're praying and it's just like ding, ding. So we get a chance to do that. That's Lord Nityananda's mercy also. His mood was to go and preach. And if you ever do any door-to-door, then it always reminds me of Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda, because with the shops, you can see by the shop what type of person is going to be in the shop, and by the street, you can look at the person and decide what type of person. But on the doors, you just don't know who's going to open or what's going to open the door, you know. We were doing door to door in Crawford John, and we knocked on this one door, and it went, and this man, yeah. I was like, excuse me. It was like really creepy. But door to door is authorized transcendental method, and the initiative now for UK is we want to get everyone out doing at least one book a week. You know, for those that have never done book distribution, one book a week, at least minimal. We can try and do that. Then we'll get the mercy of Nita. Thank you. Shri Nityananda Ram ki.
So apparently, the favourite food of Lord Nityananda is roasted and mashed eggplant. And there was the pastime of Chiddahi Utsav, the chipped rice and yogurt festival. And so was it Lord Chaitanya who appeared and only Lord Nityananda could see him, or was it Lord Nityananda appeared and Lord Chaitanya could see him? Yeah. He's feeding them, and yeah, the odd few souls could actually see what was happening, but most people just couldn't understand what he was doing. So Lord Nityananda also had two wives, didn't he? Vasudha and Janavi. And when Lord Nityananda disappeared, then Janavi took over the Sampradaya. And I think it was her son was, who's that? What's his name again? I'll find out. It begins with a V, I think. Veerachandra. What's that?
The father of the two wives, they were sisters, and the father had a dream that the two sisters should be offered as wives, but he was apprehensive to us.
Can you use the mic?
I had this dream, and then as soon as he said it, Luncheon just said, "Okay."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when someone had some doubts whether Janavi Mata should be the head of Sampradaya, then she was doing puja to her deities at Radhakund, and so someone says, well, you should just go and watch her doing puja. So she was doing puja, and the the thing with the chaste lady always has her head covered. And so she was doing puja, and so while you're doing puja, you're not supposed to stop. No, it's not like when you're doing the arti or the puja, you come off the altar and you start chatting with somebody, you go and do something for yourself. So she started the puja and her sari slipped down from her head, but she couldn't stop the puja, but she was at the same time thinking, you know, my head should be covered. So she manifested another two arms while she was doing the puja and covered her head, and then the devotee says, yeah, okay, I accept she should be the next head of the Sampradaya. Anyone else anything to share about Lord Nityananda?
On the same line of book distribution, I was hearing it from a class. My Guru Maharaj says that as Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur, they used to go to Harinam Sankirtana, and then there will be people who will accept you, and there will be people who will reject you too. So don't worry about it, and then go ahead and go for book distributions. And I have one question, Prabhu. So On the read we are reading purport. So we see Ananta Shesha as incarnation of the Lord. I have heard it, so I'm just wanted confirmation. So the Ananta Shesha incarnation of the Lord, Nityananda, is Balram. He is not in spiritual world, is in just material world itself, or
Say that again.
the Ananta Shesha incarnation, the who holds the universe in his
Yeah.
head, is in spiritual world or is just in material world, the incarnation.
Well, I don't know. Never seen him yet.
Yeah, I've heard it like this is only in the material world incarnation, not in the spiritual world. And again, when Nityananda Prabhu was there in the very early days, he used to do the pastimes of Vrindavan Leelas at home. And their parents used to think, oh, how could he know everything about this? We haven't taught you about the Agasur, Bagasur, but still we are performing this pastime. Then they got to know, yes, he's something more. He knows everything. Kind of that. So.
Yeah, I have a funny situation this morning because I couldn't sleep at night. I have problem with the kids. So I was planning to come for morning class to hear about Lord Nityananda, and when I wake up, I'm feeling so bad because I say, oh, I couldn't make it for the class. So I started to do puja, and I put Sachinanda in a class of seminar about chanting Hare Krishna, like very old class. So I was listening to the seminar, and then all of a sudden it stopped, and he said, okay, now let's talk about Lord Nityananda. I couldn't believe it. It was not part of the seminar. So probably was another track, but I was amazed. So, okay, I was very happy. Okay, and now I finally will hear something about Lord Nityananda. So I started to dress my deity, the Meshwara, and I was wondering what color shall I put today, because maybe I can dress him like Lord Nityananda. But I don't have any blue dhoti. So I said, okay, I just put a silk yellow dhoti. And at the moment I start to put the yellow dhoti, I heard the Sajjananda Swami saying, Lord Nityananda, he dressed with the yellow silk dhoti. At exactly the same moment I was putting the dhoti, I couldn't believe. Anyway, he says something very interesting things about Lord Nityananda. One of them is he was a sannyasi. I don't know, maybe, sorry, I'm late for the class, maybe they already probably trying to mention all that. But he was a sannyasi, but then he became an avadut. And sometimes he will be flirting with the girls, like we seems to be like flirting with the girls, yeah. And the people will not understand this. But Acharya said that we should never judge or misinterpret the actions of a personality like Lord Nityananda. And one of the weird things that he will do, he had the Shiva Linga on his head all the time, around his, how do you call that? Yeah, top knot. He had the Shiva Lingam inside his top knot, which is very, very unusual. I've never seen any other like Acharya or great personality doing behaving that way. So all his activities were very eccentric, but he was the bigger exponent of bhakti, and he was non-different from Krishna, from Chaitanya as well.
Anyone else like to share anything? There's quite a lot of pastimes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, including Lord Nityananda. The Adi Leela 1, chapter 5, doesn't deal so much with pastimes, but it's the glories. And it goes on to explain basically about material cosmic manifestation, the different incarnations, etc. And then it kind of concludes with Lord Nityananda is the all these different incarnations are simply expansions of Lord Nityananda to show that he is actually so great that this material cosmic manifestation is simply springing from a spark of his splendor. His expansion is Mahasankarshan and all these other Vishnus, etc. They're expanding from him. But it's just one pastime springs to mind, that Lord Chaitanya, he was sometimes being managed by the devotees because he was in such ecstasy. Just like we had the boy here yesterday, he was in such ecstasy, he had to be managed out of the temple room. And he couldn't take care of himself, so the devotees had to go and take care of him. But in the real spiritual high levels of ecstasy, Lord Chaitanya was experiencing Mahabhav, and he wanted to go to Vrindavan, and so he went wandering. And after a few days, they told him that he was in Vrindavan, but then they came upon Advaita Acharya's house. If I'm mixing up two pastimes, then someone can tell me. But they went into Advaita Acharya's house anyway, and Advaita Acharya knew that they were coming, so he cooked a big feast. And Lord Chaitanya sat down, and they say that he served a palm full, but palm doesn't mean like palm like this, it means a palm leaf. So just like sometimes we have these leaf plates. Well, they had these palm leaf plates. You see them, nice big square things like half the size of the mat, and they fill them full of prasad. And Lord Chaitanya says, I'm a sannyasi, I can't eat like this. And Lord Nityananda, he's seen the big mounds of prasadam, and he says, we've been fasting for 3 days. Today I thought I was going to break my fast. What is this morsel you've given us? And then Advaita Acharya says, who are you? Anybody? Nobody knows who you are. You're a reject Paramahamsa. So because he was, like Gandhaki Prabhu was saying, that people don't know, is he a householder? Is he a sannyasi? What is he? So basically, it was a glorification, although it seems externally like an insult to each other. Like Lord Nityananda called him, because he's Advaita, he called him a monist. Now, to call a devotee a Mayavadi is such an insult, but this was just them playing. And then Lord Nityananda threw some rice on Advaita Acharya, and when the rice struck his body, he became so jubilant in ecstasy, he was chanting and dancing in ecstasy. So this is, and in the purport, Prabhupada says that who can understand this exchange? Now we can try to understand some little bit, but we cannot understand because we don't know who these great personalities are. We hear about them and we hear a little glimpse of their pastimes. But Lord Nityananda, as we were saying earlier on, then we cannot fathom him out. He is known as Avadut, which means he doesn't play by the rules, he plays by his own rules. So although he seems to be a householder, he's actually a great renunciant. Which householders goes for a walk and fast for 3 days? And as we were saying earlier on, that also Lord Nityananda, he's very attentive to the devotees serving each other properly and looking after each other. As explained in this pastime of when Shivananda Sena and the devotees were going to Jagannath Puri for Rath Yatra, and he hadn't made some proper arrangement, and Lord Nityananda kicked him, and he gave him a curse, and Shivananda Sena's family were very upset about the curse, and Shivananda said, why are you upset? This is a blessing. Lord Nityananda, he can do whatever he likes. He's the Supreme Lord. It's a great benediction to be kicked by Lord Nityananda. But the lesson there is, that he actually he wanted them to be attentive to serving the devotees. So that's a way we can get Lord Nityananda's mercy if we have a good service attitude towards the devotees. So these different pastimes which we read about, then there's many instructions there for us to learn. And it's interesting that the Lord, both Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, and their eternal associates, they came here and they actively engaged in the mission. They didn't just give us a mission, appear as a puff of smoke and leave a slab of commandments or instructions for us to follow and then scoot off back to the spiritual world. They actually came here and exhibited the activities of the spiritual world. They exhibited their pastimes to attract. This is what the Lord does. He appears to attract the living entities to the eternal pastimes. And so when we hear about this, if the devotees have anything to share, they can do, but I just wanted to share this one thing. Before I joined, then I had came across a couple of Back to Godhead magazines, and I didn't yet have a Bhagavad Gita, but I went to the library in my hometown to see if there was any Krishna conscious books, and the only book they had was Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So I got the book out, and I think at that time you could get it out for a month and then you had to return it. So I kept it for a month and I looked at the pictures and I tried to read it. I couldn't get past the first page. I didn't understand what it meant at all. I could understand what the words meant, but the whole thing just seemed to be like something else. But there was something so attractive about it. I thought, okay, usually if you've got a book, you don't understand the first couple of words, you just send it back, take it back. But I kept it for a few months. I kept on renewing it because I was thinking, there's something about this book, I have to try to understand it. And looking back on it, there was like Prabhupada said, these pictures are windows to the spiritual world, but the book itself, it just seemed like something very divine and serene about it. And looking back on it then, Prabhupada said that this Teachings of Lord Chaitanya is non-different from Bhagavad Gita. And it's a very good book to read to learn how to preach, because we learn about the different incarnations, and there's also many different verses there which you can learn to defeat Mayavadis and various other demigod worshippers, etc. So there's a lot of good ammunition for preachers of the Lord Chaitanya's movement. And the various pastimes that Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda engage in, some of them are considered there.
I had one when I joined. It was Chaitanya College at the end of '82, and we had on the altar was the Panchatattva. Do you know what that Panchatattva is now?
Italy.
And they had beautiful, really beautiful eyes. And then above the Panchatattva was a Rath Yatra car on the altar, and above them was Lord Jagannath Baladev Subhadra. So it was quite spectacular. And the devotees, when they were dressing, they had to kind of go up ladders to get to the floor that Lord Jagannath was on. And there was we were celebrating the appearance of Lord Nityananda, and the curtains opened, and you couldn't see anything. It was just covered in incense smoke. It was just like a wall. I was looking to see the deities, and the first thing I saw was Lord Nityananda's face coming out from the incense smoke. And at that time, there was a lot of things still getting purified inside me. So I thought it was really mystical that Lord Nityananda's face was just coming out from the incense, and then everyone paid their obeisances, and then when we stood up, then the incense had dissipated, and we could see the deities really nicely, and there was an amazing kirtan as well. Like, I couldn't see the Panchatattva dancing there, but it really felt like the Panchatattva were dancing in the kirtan. It was very ecstatic, very nice. And Mayapur is very special as well. You know, the deities there are so big on the altar. Their presence is so powerful. They say that as Kali Yuga goes on, the Jamuna will eventually dry up, and Govardhan will eventually disappear, and the Raj, the dust from Vrindavan, that will also disappear as Kali Yuga progresses. But every day that Kali Yuga progresses, Mayapadam gets a little bit stronger, a little bit more powerful. And so the potency, all the preaching is coming from Mayapur and then spreading throughout the universe, not just here, but throughout all the planets in the universe as well.
It's interesting that sometimes people say, why have you got a temple in Lesmahigo in the middle of nowhere? And then you go to our world headquarters, which are in the middle of nowhere. But actually they're in the middle of everything because everything's coming from there. Even back to Vedanta Manor, it's not exactly easy to get to. It's easier to get to Kirunabhavan than it is to get to the manor. You go to Glasgow and you get a bus, simple. So yeah, maybe this is just something about it. So thanks for to the devotees for sharing this. We're going to have Gora Arti now. If you'd like to stand up and we can start to chant for the